Vince, I will ask you this. Are you ready for rapid fire?
Oh, I love Friday rapid fire. Let's go.
All right. Scale of 1 to 10. What is your confidence? Riley Leonard will have his second consecutive 200-plus yard passing game.
No, it's like a 12. I think he did it in 3 quarters last week. I think this is a very similar statistical defense this week. I think that he will absolutely have more than 200 yards. It'll be interesting to see how this game plays out. Is it going to be another 3-quarter game for the starters, or is Riley Leonard going to be able to play the full 4? I mean, if he plays the full 4 quarters, he's definitely going to be over 200. So, yeah, I feel very confident in that.
I am as well. I'll call it a 9. You were just through the roof. I didn't realize you would be that confident.
Why not?
His over-under, I think I've got it right here, 171 and a half is
take
his
it, baby. Take it.
I'm feeling good about that. I'm feeling really good about 200 because, like you said, like we just mentioned a little bit ago, from a pass efficiency standpoint, Georgia Tech's secondary is only a little bit better than Stanford's secondary last week. Again, we've been jilted before, but I feel pretty good about this. I feel like where Riley Leonard in the offense is trending, this should be an easy over on this.
Yes.
So I'm 9 out of 10. I'll leave 1 just for margin of error. Fill in the blank. Notre Dame getting Josh Burnham and Gabe Rubio back on the defensive line last week is blank.
It's game changing, right? I mean, what did Josh Burnham do with that turnover? That was what they call it did they call it an interception officially?
Fumble. They called it a fumble officially.
Did they really?
Okay.
Yeah. Was it did it never hit the ground though, did it? Or it went backwards?
I don't know if he technically knocked it out of his hand or,
okay.
The guy's arm was never coming forward.
Yeah, right, for sure. But either way, I mean, look, they were very impactful in that game. I think Gabe Rubio was, I think he had like 23 snaps or 21 snaps, something along those lines. But he obviously caught the attention of his teammates and the way he was doing things over there on the defensive side. So, it was game-changing in that particular game. And I think, add a little bit more to the workload of Gabe Rubio, and I think Josh Burnham is going to continue to have a good game as well. I mean, look, IB Nation Sports Talk has been high on Josh Burnham since the get-go this year, so that doesn't change, even though he was injured. Let's go, Josh.
It was energizing to get them back. We weren't just going one word, but that would be my word for it. Energizing, like with all the losses that this team has sustained. I mean, you had 2 significant ones, obviously, at the same Viper defensive end position alone with Patelho and Traore. So to get Burnham back was huge.
Yeah.
Because he's backing up both sides now. And, I think a lot of people think that maybe he should be starting on at least one side. Maybe that ends up happening. Who knows? But then to get Rubio and just that big body, and then, like to hear all the stuff being talked about him, the rolling ball of nails, and, Riley Mills talking about this guy just knocks people on his butt every time you turn around. I think they needed both the energy and that edge that these guys brought back. And, to have that kind of play from Josh Burnham right away, and he ends up with 5 tackles in the game, and then Gabe Rubio didn't pile up a bunch of stats, but that's not necessarily what you're looking for from a guy playing in the middle of the line. It's like you just like that big body. They haven't played. He's the biggest body that Notre Dame has put out there on the defensive line this season. So to get that back in the middle and have that kind of edge, have that kind of energy, I think it was really energizing. And I really do. I think that some of that rubbed off on some of the other guys, or, not that everybody needed that to rub off on them, but I think there are certain guys who needed it to rub off on them a little bit. And I think it did. I think it rubbed off on them last week. Infectious, seeing some of that physical,
like that
energetic play. So, Vince, a listener posted this question on YouTube last night. He addressed it to you. Hello, Vince. Boy. He says, current Notre Dame football team, last possession. Either the offense can win the game or the defense stops the score to win the game. Who do you want on the field? Will you ever say we want the offense on the field?
Well, okay. So
I don't know why he addressed this specifically to you, but
I don't
I don't know
either.
if there's maybe things you've said that
I feel like that's pointed. I feel triggered right now.
I know.
No, I was kidding. This is a really good question because the defense. I don't want to dig up this dead body, but the defense was on the field at the end of the Northern Illinois game.
We're
and they
thinking
lost.
the exact same thing.
We got a lot of crap for bringing that up, you and I, because the defense only gave up 16 points.
Right. But they gave up the winning score, and Al Golden conceded. They gave up.
Yes.
They you didn't give up few enough points. And remember, at the end of the Texas A&M game, even though the defense did come up with a stop there, Riley Leonard led the fourth quarter touchdown drive that won the game.
Won the game for
him. If you're going to address this question, we have seen with our own eyes in back-to-back weeks, the offense came through, the defense didn't. That doesn't mean I don't respect Al Golden and his defense, but that's just what it is. In this season, we have answers to both of these questions.
Yes.
But the question is, I guess, what is your answer right now? Do you lean on that for the answer to your question?
I do lean on that to answer my question because we've seen it in real time. I mean, I want facts. I want to deal in facts. And to me, the facts are very simple. Look, Riley Leonard can do a lot of things in a football game to just go down and get you points, whether it's using his legs or his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And that also plays into the fact that I think there's also, athletes on offense that can get the ball in their hands and do things. For example, the screenplay to Jeremiyah Love. Yes, Riley Leonard had to get it to Jeremiyah Love, but then Jeremiyah Love had to go and score the touchdown at the end of the Louisville game, right? And so the offense has kind of done it time and time again at this point. And so I'm putting the offense out there. And I know we're going to kind of talk about this on the next question, so we'll lead into it. But I also feel real confident with Mitch Jeter being able to kick a game-winning field goal if you're in his range. So with all those things combined, if it's a field goal game, right, I like the offense being on the field. I do.
I don't disagree with that. I guess, the only thing that would put the defense into this kind of situation is if the offense isn't playing up to snuff, because that was a factor against Northern Illinois. But
100%.
Again, if you go back and play out the entire game, the explosive plays that Northern Illinois made in the first half put the defense in the situation it was also in the second half. If they hadn't given up those explosive plays in the first half, even though the offense wasn't playing as well, the defense wouldn't have been in a situation where you can't give that up. But I mean, they had their chance and they didn't come through. And again, Al Golden has conceded that point. So I will say this: the defense is only giving up 4.5 points in the second half on average this season.
Yeah,
which is pretty amazing. And that includes Northern Illinois. I think all they got was a field goal in the second half, but unfortunately it was the game-deciding field goal, as it turned out. So Riley Leonard has shown he can do it, and I have confidence that he will do it again. And again, I hate to kind of always have to kind of fall back on this, especially when you look at the teams that Notre Dame is playing. I have confidence that Leonard can do that. Now, let's go to your question about the field goal kicker. Scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you if Mitch Jeter, the field goal kicker, is out for an extended period with this hip injury that he has?
I am concerned once December hits. That's when I get concerned. They'll be just fine with the kickers that they have for the rest of the regular season. I want a healthy Mitch Jeter for the playoffs. That's what I want. And so, of course, I'm assuming Notre Dame makes the playoff.
Cart, horse, yes. Yeah. We're just assuming Notre Dame's in the playoffs again already.
They don't need Mitch Jeter to win the rest of their games, though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they shouldn't.
They shouldn't, right? They should not need Mitch Jeter to win the rest of these games. And so whatever his injury is, he just needs to rehab it and get better and be ready to go for December. That's where I'm at as far as Mitch Jeter being healthy and what they need him for.
Yeah, and I mean, you obviously spun it to, should you need him to win the games? I guess I hadn't really, drilled down that far. I'm just looking at consistency of like, do you have someone who you can rely on? One, to make an average field goal. Two,
Sure.
what's their range going to be? Marcus Freeman was asked that question twice this week, and he didn't want to go there. Like, either he doesn't know the answer to the question, or he's just unwilling to give us the answer to the question. Between Zach Yoakum and Marcello Diomede, who knows what we're going to see? Diomede, as we were talking about earlier this week, a highly sought after kicking recruit a couple of years ago, got a 5-star from one of the kicking services, but we haven't seen him kick a field goal yet. We haven't seen Zach Yoakum kick a field goal yet.
I mean, we've
seen him in practice, and we weren't necessarily impressed with what we saw in practice.
I don't even remember seeing Diomede in practice. So, because they had 2 kickers going, usually is what they do when we're there, and it was Yoakum and it was Jeter. So, I have no idea what Diomede can do.
I know.
To be honest with you, I mean, you don't just look 5-star ratings for kickers don't just fall off trees. So, I mean, obviously he earned that, but we've never seen him do it in a game, and I think he's listed as the second kicker this week. So, you probably won't see it again. Unless there's another injury.
Yeah. So I guess my number is 7. That's my confidence.
No, that's right.
Or no, concern. I guess concern was this one. What's my concern? So I guess that drops it. If my confidence is a 7, that drops it to a 3. My concern is a 3.
Yeah, my concern is about a 1.5 to 2.
Okay.
Unless I hear that he's out for the season, then my concern level raises.
Scale of 1 to 10. What is your confidence Jeremiyah Love scores a touchdown in an 8th consecutive game this week?
Death, taxes, and Jeremiyah Love getting in the zone, baby. It's like a 9.5. 9.5. I'll give it a 9.5. Little room for error, but I feel very good about Jeremiyah Love getting in the end zone in this game.
I'm at a 9 as well. It's amazing. Like, this is one of those streaks that I didn't even realize was a streak until somebody brought it up earlier this week, and it's like, oh yeah, he has. I mean,
he's really good.
Yeah, he is. He scored from 39 yards out last week, and I think that this, you might as well just book it, bank on it every week. It feels like Jeremiyah Love's going to find the end zone. I don't even know what his odds are, but I'm sure they're pretty good.
Right, exactly.
Which Notre Dame opponent is most likely to make the college football playoff this season? Army, Navy, or Texas A&M?
Oh, gosh. This is so hard. So I think the best thing to do is let's break this down, all right? You and me, here we go. Okay. So Texas A&M, right? Let's look at their remaining games, okay? So they just got done beating 19th ranked Missouri, and they pounded them, which is awesome.
They did.
But look, Texas A&M hasn't lost a game since obviously they played Notre Dame. So they got 1 loss.
Right. That's why they're on this list.
Right. They got Mississippi State, of course. They got Mississippi State tomorrow. That should be a win. They've got LSU at home.
Toss
up. Then they got South Carolina. Should be a win. New Mexico State should be
definite
a
win.
Auburn win.
Should be a win.
And then they close out the season with Texas. I think Texas is the better team there. I would count that as a loss. So you're looking at 2, maybe 3 losses for the old Aggies. Okay. I don't think that gets them in. But if they can somehow, if they beat LSU and lose a close game to Texas, I think they've got a shot. All right. What do you say?
If they can lose a close game to Texas and beat LSU, is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do think they've got a shot.
Yeah.
In that instance, because when you look at how the SEC is shaping up right now, A&M, Texas, and LSU are the only 3 teams who don't have a conference loss right now. So, like, Notre Dame winning out, regardless of what their schedule is, that still helps Texas A&M in the long run. And I just, like you were saying, like if they can finish with only 2 losses, I think that there's going to be a really strong case for them, especially if that Texas game is close.
Right.
They'll have a really strong case to probably be the 4th SEC team getting in the playoff.
Right. I agree. But they can't lose to LSU.
Right. They've got to beat LSU and then play a good game against Texas at the end of the season.
Both of those games are at home for A&M, which I think is big for them. And so they've got, I like them against LSU. I'm sure that'll be one of the games that we pick next week. But I do like them against LSU. Texas, I would pick Texas over A&M. I don't care where they play that game. But again, if they can keep it close, they got a puncher's chance, right? But then here are the interesting ones, right? So Army, Navy, neither team plays a ranked team
other than Notre Dame
and themselves.
Right.
And will they still be ranked after they play Notre Dame? I mean, that's a debatable concept, right?
Well, and the fact that they both play Notre Dame is significant this year as well, obviously, assuming Notre Dame takes care of business.
That's a very, very, very good point. This is the tough one for me.
And then there's the fact that they could play each other, as we've talked about before, 2 weeks in a row. They could play in the AAC championship game, and then the next week. Now, the selections will already have been made by the time they play each other the next week. But obviously, whoever loses, if they play each other in the AAC championship, whoever loses that game is essentially going to be eliminated right there, assuming they have already lost to Notre Dame at that point.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I have to say, like, to play a game after the selection, like, let's say one of those teams gets selected, whoever wins the AAC championship gets selected to be that group of 5 team. And then they got to go play Army or Navy, whichever one. They got to play them again the following week after you've already been selected to the college football playoff.
Right.
That's craziness. I still, at this point in the deal, I will take Texas A&M in this particular question. That may make some people upset, and that's fine. The funny thing is, all 3 of these teams could end the season potentially with just a loss to Notre Dame.
Right. Well, no, there's no way that all 3 of them could.
Because Army Navy doesn't play their game. Yeah. Right. They could go into their conference championship weekend with just a loss to Notre Dame. How about that?
There you go. And I think that ultimately I'm going to give this to Texas A&M because they're in the SEC, so that's going to help them. And again, if those games are competitive, that's always going to help them.
Right.
Again, assuming it's 2 losses and not 3.
Yes.
And if Notre Dame wins out, that obviously helps them. And then Boise State, because remember, it's the highest ranked group of 5 team that gets in. Boise State right now controls their own destiny, and their schedule has UNLV, which is, a more competitive UNLV team this year, and that is actually coming up next weekend, a week from today. Actually, it's going to be a Friday night game. San Diego State, Nevada, San Jose State, Wyoming, and Oregon State. So they're the highest ranked group of 5 right now. They've got the best chance right now. So as long as they don't have a monumental screw up, they should be the group of 5 that ends up in there. So I'm going to give it to Texas A&M if they can, basically split their games against LSU in Texas, regardless of who it ends up being.
Dig it.
So let's look at a few game props. Riley Leonard's over under 171.5 passing yards, 62.5 rushing yards.
Pounding the over on both. He averages about 60 yards a game. I know he didn't get to it last week, but I think he hits 200, and I think he hits 62.5. So I will take the over on both.
I'm going over as well. I think I would have put his passing yard total closer to 190 yards. I am surprised it's as low as it is, but I guess just based on his average and the fact that he's only had over 200 once, it's a little bit lower. But again, he's going to face a team that's not great with, in terms of pass defense. So I'm going to go over on that. I'm over on the rushing yards as well. I think that he ends up somewhere probably around 70-ish, 75 maybe rushing yards in this game. Jeremiyah Love, 65.5 rushing yards.
This is tough. I'm going to be optimistic and take the over on this one. I like it. I think that he's going to have a decent game here. They are going to try to take away the run, and that could hinder Jeremiyah Love. And really the biggest hinder to this whole thing is what is it going to look like between Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price and the carry situation, because they were really feeding Jadarian Price last week.
Twice as many carries.
Right. Yep. Does that even back out, this week? It remains to be seen, right? But I will tentatively take the over here.
I'm going over as well because he did only have 6 carries last week, which is still amazing.
I know, right?
Price only had 12, so that's still only 18 between the two of them. But he averaged 8.8 per carry. So, I mean, if you give him even 10 carries, he's easily, gonna be over that. So I'm gonna go over 65.5.
Nice.
Receiving yards, Bo Collins, 33.5.
These receiving props are so low. Like, I realize the quarterback is not
just exactly daring you to go over.
I know, and I'm taking the dare on most of these. I think Bo Collins is Riley Leonard's favorite target, regardless of what happened last week. And I just don't see a pro like Bo Collins having that performance 2 weeks in a row. So I will take the over on Bo.
I'm going to go over as well. I mean, he's the go-to guy in terms of the receivers. There just hasn't been anyone else who has seen near the volume. I think the only thing that, would kind of change that is if they've, decided to go away from him because of the fumble that he had last week. But I'm going to go over for Bo Collins at 33.5 as well. Chris Mitchell's is 19.5.
That's like one catch, Sean. Like,
he's only been under that number once this year. That's when he had one catch against Texas A&M. I've got to go over.
Yes, over. Why is it not even 20 yards? Like,
I know.
Over.
I know.
Over.
I'm surprised the number's not somewhere around 25. Yeah. Mitchell Evans, 21.5.
This one's hard because Mitchell has kind of been a bit of a no-show as far as the passing game is concerned. And, you figure when a guy is struggling throwing the football that he's going to be looking for his big old tight end who's got great hands, and that really hasn't been the case. I would love for them to get Mitchell Evans more involved, but I'm going to take the under here.
Yeah, you read my mind. I've got to go under as well. Now, I mean, he's topped this number 2 different times this season. That was earlier in the year, and it's just been so hit and miss, inconsistent, with the tight end. He had nothing last week. It doesn't feel like Mike Denbrock really is factoring the tight end into the passing game right now. So I can't go over on Mitchell Evans, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mitchell Haynes, the Georgia Tech running back, has an over-under of 60.5 rushing yards.
I still think they're going to pound the rock. I just don't think that they're going to have the success that they want to have. I will take the under on this one.
I'm going under as well. I don't think they're going to get it. What did Notre Dame end up holding Stanford to last week from a running situation? It was 113 total yards. Nobody had more than 45 yards. Again, Haynes is better than anybody that Stanford had last week, but I think with a game plan, I don't see him getting this against the Irish.
Agreed.
Notre Dame is favored by 9.5. The over-under for the game is 50.5. What is your game prediction, Mr. D'Addario?
Well, I made this prediction fairly recently, but it was still before they officially announced that Haynes King was going to be out. So this is going to be my prediction regardless. I feel much more comfortable with that prediction now that I know for a fact that Haynes King is not going to be playing in this football game. And in fact, I would even consider lowering this a little bit on the Georgia Tech side from a points scenario. I just think that if the offense builds on what it was doing last week against Stanford, and if the defense comes out with its hair on fire, just getting after this essentially rookie quarterback who has never seen an Al Golden defense live and in person, I just don't see a whole lot of success coming Georgia Tech's way, and I see a lot of success, Notre Dame's way. So my score prediction is 49-10 officially, which means I think they cover the spread. And it also means that I think they hit the over-under as well. I've almost got Notre Dame doing that on their own. And I think that, Notre Dame is going to have a very successful day and probably see a lot of 18 handing the ball off at the end.
Yeah, I think that just like last week with Stanford, I think Georgia Tech's best chance to score is going to come on their first possession, especially considering the fact that they do have a different quarterback in there. Even, Notre Dame has obviously done some game planning for him, but it's not going to be Haynes King. I think that maybe they've got a chance, to hit a couple of plays on that opening drive like we've seen from some different teams this season. But I just think otherwise, Al Golden's defense is going to feast against these guys. Might they hit a run or two? Yeah. Might they hit a pass or two? Yeah. But I think it's going to be really inconsistent from an inexperienced quarterback like Zach Pyron. My prediction, 38-13 was my score prediction. So I barely got it going over the 51. I do have a feeling Notre Dame could add at least a touchdown on that. And I wouldn't be surprised if the point total is a little bit lower for Georgia Tech based on that as well. So 38-13 is my official prediction. I'll go ahead and stick with it, even though I think it could end up being a little bit more lopsided for the Irish because of the quarterback change.
Boom. Big win.
All right. Vince and company has the post-game show tomorrow.
Yeah, baby.
So be ready for that. Enjoy the game, Notre Dame and Georgia Tech. Vince, enjoyed it as always. I will talk to you next week. Have a great post-game show. Have a great senior day tonight. Talk to everybody next week on IB Nation Sports Talk.